was a first rural mission. Every other mission is in the big cities and so forth. So this was the first rural. You know, the people here were amazed. This is a first in their lives. One of the conditions that Mother insisted with the bishop when he opened the place, that the sisters would have Mass every day, which means that you're here and things like vacations and stuff, unless you get someone to come in, one of the conditions was that they would come if they could have Mass every day. And the bishop agreed to it, sure. Yeah. My most embarrassing thing was that I kept calling her Sister Teresa. And every time that it'd slip out, she says, "That's all right, I'm Sister," instead of calling her Mother. Many times when I'd be with her, she said, "No, you have to come to Calcutta to give a retreat to the sisters." And I kept saying, "Yeah, sure." You know, finally, she pinned me down. All the sisters met me at the airport over there, including Mother. And on the way in, she announces to me, "Father, I will be making your retreat." Great. What the dickens are you going to say to someone as holy as that, you know? I don't know how many miles outside of Calcutta you started seeing these little like shack-like things. The whole family is in one of these things, all lined up on both sides of the road. And I was saying to the sisters, people live all year long in these, oh yeah. All of a sudden the car in front of us stopped, glanced out, and here's some cows. No horns were blowing, nothing, no one was trying to push through them or anything. Cows are sacred over there. And so we just sat, cars lined up on either side, all as far as you could see. We finally made it into Calcutta. A teeming city of shacks, people by the millions. There were people that lived their whole lives. They were born in the streets. They grew in the streets. They died in the streets. One woman there, she was nursing her baby. Her arms were as skinny as my thumb. Baby was, you know, eyes sunk in, gaunt, and so forth. And the mother held out a hand, you know. So I stopped and was going to. The two nuns stepped back and they said, "Don't give anything. You'll have all these people coming after you." So she sent the mother and the baby up to the mother house. One of the sisters and one of the volunteers would go around to these abortion clinics and fish through the barrels, now if you can imagine this, and pick out any live babies that were there. So that day we were visiting, 3 of them were fished out of the garbage pails. Quite an eye-opener, because I had heard about Calcutta. But I never for the life of me realized, you know, to the extent of the poverty there, beyond my imagination even. It was the most revealing thing that I've ever seen. So sure enough, comes the conferences, and she's sitting over in the corner. I'm constantly aware of her presence over there. I try not to look at her. It's kind of a worrisome thing for me because you know, what can I say to her that's going to be uplifting, raise her spirituality? I took and revamped all my sermons every night, changed them around. Dear Lord. They took me over to the house for the dying. And that in itself is something. There's a huge temple given over to the goddess of death, Kali. The tradition is that if you're dying and you go over and you die at the temple, you're going to go to nirvana, you're going to go to heaven. If you go over, you get better, or you get tired of waiting around for death to come, and you go back, you're not going to get there. So you go over and you commit yourself to this. Mother and the sisters used to go over there and they'd try to help the people, feed them, wash them. India's got this caste system. For the higher castes and so forth, even your shadow can pollute them. So they wouldn't let the sisters touch them at all. Until one day, and this is a story from Mother herself, and she said to this guy lying there, "I can't understand it. You believe in one God. I believe in one God. You believe in Abraham, and I believe in Abraham. You believe in Isaac, so do I. You believe in Jacob, and so do I. Look at how much we have in common, and yet you won't even let me, in the name of that one God, wash you, feed you, help you." And she said the man lay there for a minute, and then he got up on his elbow and he called over to the others, "Mother Teresa is one of us." And she said from that time on, that they were allowed to bathe them, put clothes on them, feed them, and so forth. Here's these people dying, almost skeletons, and sisters are feeding them, bathing them. But you didn't hear a whimper out of any of them. Mother would pass by that I'll, give her the weak and dying as they are. Every one of them would give her a big smile. For Thanksgiving dinner, I came at lunchtime, and here's a big thing signed by Mother, "Happy Thanksgiving." They couldn't find any turkey, so they gave me a leg of chicken. I forget what the dessert was, a piece of pie anyway. But they really put themselves out to have me celebrate Thanksgiving as if at this point I could care. By this time, I'm totally exhausted, asking myself, how did I get into this mess? Knowing that I've got like a 23-hour trip back home. But fortunately, on that trip, Mother came with us, so everybody parted ways. You didn't get your luggage inspected or checked or anything. Sailed right through, and everybody's welcome, Mother, So we came into this airport. The little ones are running around, running between Mother and there's a beautiful little kids, golly. Mother said to me, that little one is one of the ones from the abortion clinics. Oh. And as I say, you couldn't imagine a more beautiful little kid. God, all you think of is, if they hadn't rescued them, they'd be in a dump someplace. See, in all of these places, this movie proceeded her into these different countries. This woman convinced the authority, now this is still a communist country, this woman put it on their chins. You honor all of these people with statues and pictures, and yet one of your own is an international hero, recognized all over the world. One of your Albanian citizens. What does the world think of Albania that won't even recognize that one of their own is so widely acclaimed and so forth? And she was saying, I seldom start to think about that. They decided they would invite her to come. Mother got the word in Rome, and so she told the Holy Father that she had received an invite to go to Albania, but she wasn't allowed to bring a priest or anyone. He gave her a pyx with enough hosts in it for the whole time that they would be there. Unbeknownst, because now it's illegal. The Constitution in Albania explicitly forbid any sign of religious devotion, anything. A couple of times she told me the story. Father, what do you think? I had Jesus under my sari all those weeks. Isn't that? Her eyes would light up, you know. It was, I think, one of the biggest thrills she ever had, you know. The reason that she called is that now she's got, what, 4 or 5 houses over there, at least 4 sisters in each house. There was one priest they dug up from someplace. All he could speak was Croatian. He couldn't understand them, they couldn't understand him. And so she called up, this was a Monday, believe this. Father, could you come over for about 3 weeks, possibly a month? The sisters can't go to confession, they can't have Mass in English or anything, and would you mind coming? The big thing was she was bringing in to settle this new house more nuns, so I was supposed to be it. And sure enough, if I didn't get sick, so I lasted 9 days. And then I got so bad that I couldn't even eat a piece of bread. Albania signed into law on the Feast of St. Joseph, 67, I think it was, dispelling all religious, Jews, Arabs, Christians of every sort, threw them out of the country, exiled them, or threw them into jail and so forth. There's to be no public display of any religion whatsoever. All churches are closed down, taken over by the government and so on. Feast of St. Joseph, that year I went over, it was lifted. And let me tell you something, the power of women. The way this came about, she had dinner with the Prime Minister and his wife. The wife was so taken over with Mother that she needled, I guess, induced the husband to give Mother a house in Albania. This is a first. So the first they had to do away with the constitutional amendment there. They did that. The communist, heck was his name, he was ousted. They knocked down the statue, broke it up. He was worse than Stalin for persecution, for killings, and you can't believe that country. So while I was there, they also gave her this house out in the middle of the country. It was like a trading post. And the place came to be one big brothel. As a result, you had these kids, deformed, blind, spastic, but you had hordes of them. But they're out on the streets, they got no place to go, people didn't want them. And so they gave this house to Mother if, you know, she'd take care of these kids. You couldn't believe the condition of these kids. God bless us. Anyway, all as a result of venereal disease. 2 nuns, Albanian nuns, that had been in hiding for all those years, now kept their habits and were able to attend Mass for the very first time. Upstairs there were 2. They were so sick, one of them died. But I'd bring communion to them. Mother discovered that there was 20 priests that are in jails throughout the country. So now that she has an in with the Prime Minister, because of the Prime Minister's wife, God works in strange ways, doesn't he? We found out where these priests were, and I forget how many in their 80s, how many in their 70s had been imprisoned, worked in coal mines. They were all rheumatoid, bent over, confused. Some of them didn't even know they were priests anymore. She got them all freed to go back to their families and so forth. I don't know how many died in those prison camps. But in the city of Toronto, they had a cathedral church again. It was used for everything. Well, when this nun died, that place was flocked with people. The people come out of hiding. Hard to believe. It was considered the last atheistic country in the world. And as I say, it was recreated, I would say, by first that movie, Mother, and then it just moved from there. Hard to believe that world affairs can be changed by divine providence. I got an invitation from the United Nations to attend their 40th anniversary of their existence. At the same time, it's going to be the first showing of the documentary, the movie. Mother is going to it, and she asked if you would be her escort. What the heck am I going to be doing? Escorting Mother to the UN. When the time came, Mother said, Father, what do you think? The United Nations trying to keep peace in the world? I thought it might be a good idea to pass out the prayer to St. Francis, prayer of peace. What do you think? What am I going to say, you know? Little did I know that the sister she had with her had a bag full of leaflets with the prayer of St. Francis on them. She knew what she was doing. And finally we pull up in front of the UN. There's all these reporters with crowds of people, and I'm feeling, what a stupid thing. And we go into this huge, big room, big high ceilings. They brought poor Mother a plank to write down in the front, the head of the UN, Secretary General. And he got up on the stage, had the privilege, he said, of introducing the greatest woman of our century. They escort Mother up to the microphone. She said, I think this would be a very nice occasion, since the UN is dedicated to peace, to say St. Francis' prayer of peace. And so, if you would all join me, in the meantime, these things are passed out. And she starts reciting it, and I could see people of all makes and descriptions and so forth, their mouths moving. I know that they all didn't speak English. And after it was all over, they cheered and so forth, and poor Mother was standing up there. I'll bet she was up there 10 minutes, and she kept looking for people, and she's going, you know, and someone to come up and rescue the poor thing, all by a lonesome up in this huge, big stage. So we went downstairs, and who comes by but the chief of protocol with his wife. So I said to him, what did you think? He said, the greatest night of my life, he said. I will sum up her appearance here. Love went out here to all these people, and love come back to her without. That was what it was about. And then we had, for the first time in the UN history, a prayer was said. Kings come to address the UN. Nobody prays. Ambassadors, the Pope from Rome comes, we don't pray. Mother Teresa comes, we pray. message constantly was prayer, the most important thing in your life. Prayer gives you an insight as to God's will. Prayer gives you the ability to love not only Him, but to love one another. And so it begins at home. It reaches out to one's neighbor. It reaches out particularly to the poor. Almighty and ever-living God, in you we place our trust and our hope. In you the dead whose bodies are temples of the Spirit find everlasting peace. And as we take leave of our brother, give our hearts peace in the firm hope that one day James will live in the mansion you have prepared for him. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. And because God has chosen to call our brother from this life to himself, we commit his body to the earth. For we are dust, and into dust we shall return. But the Lord Jesus Christ will change our mortal bodies to be like his in glory. He is risen, the firstborn of the dead. And so let us commend our brother, that the Lord may embrace him in peace, raise his body up on the last.